would believe that in Egypt, which is the center of the support for Islam and capital of the Muslims, that a person should say such blasphemous things and remain alive even for a moment. However, Hopnavi wrote these things and is still alive. We do not even consider Hopnavi's nonsense worth refuting. He says, Ziyad ibn Sumayya was the true and real son of Abu Sufyan, and this has been proved from the literal and religious points of view. About a criminal he says that he was a pious person. About a true believer he says that he was an infidel and criminal, and about righteous person he says that he was unjust and sinful. What we mean to say is that there are individuals amongst Muslims who introduce themselves as Muslims and Arabs, but they are secretly working against Islam. They feel sorry that Abu Sufyan did not gain victory over his enemy the Holy Prophet and that he did not act with him in the same manner that his grandson did with Imam Hussein, and his children in Karbala. The teachers of Al-Azhar and other writers have maintained silence on this calumny of Hopnavi because, in their view, he is a self-professed Muslim. Sufyani book and Al-Azbar. Those who go through the Sufyani book, for which a professor of theology at Al-Azhar University has written a foreword, acknowledge one reality, and it is that the aim of Hopnavi and the Black Crows who have supported him is to stigmatize Islam and all that is sacred in it, to promote infidelity and atheism, and to support the goals of Christian missionaries. The objective of Hopnavi becomes clear when we compare his remarks with those of the Christian Orientalists. Brockelman writes in the first volume of his book Tarakush Shab al-Ilamiyah, the Meccans could not achieve any result in the Battle of Uhud. And Hopnavi writes on page 37 of his book, in the Battle of Uhud, Abu Sufyan did not understand how to destroy the Muslims. On page 154 of his book Brockelman says, Hussein did not surrender to Umar ibn Saud because he thought that being the grandson of the Prophet, he enjoyed security of life, but his estimation was wrong. Hopnavi had quoted these exact words on page 138 of his book. From these introductory remarks, it becomes clear that the book Abu Sufyan Shayuk ul-Umayyan has been compiled from the remarks of the Christian missionaries and the Orientalists. In fact, it originates from its beginning to the end, from the western land of the colonial masters, Christianity and enmity with Islam and the Muslims. Now the reason for their attacks on the old and new sources of history, exegesis, hadith and biography of the Muslims becomes quite clear. It has also become clear that as Imam Ali, and his descendants, have been praised and Bani Umayyah and their followers have been reproached in the books of history and exegesis and other Islamic books, the same have been subjected to criticism by Hopnavi, and he considers them inauthentic. From what has been stated above, it also becomes known as to what extent Hopnavi speaks the truth. On page 4 of his book, he writes, My motto is to unveil the facts and I cannot imitate others, because those who have condemned Bani Umayyah have blindly followed the Shias. Indeed, Hopnavi does not believe in the Holy Quran because the Quran has declared Bani Umayyah to be the accursed tree. Hopnavi also does not believe the traditions that say that Imam Ali, and his descendants are inseparable partners of Quran and those who separate truth from falsehood. In his speech and thinking, Hopnavi has reposed faith in the enemies of Allah and his Prophet because his thinking is influenced by the colonialists. I do not intend to discuss in this book what the scholars of traditions, history, and exegesis have written about the virtues of Imam Ali, and his descendants. These matters have already been discussed in my books, Al-Bayt, Ali wa Al-Quran and Al-Mayalish al-Husainiyah. Here I would just like to reproduce a brief statement by Sheikh Habib Muhammad al-Ubaidi, the Mufti of Mosul, and a distinguished Sunni scholar of Iraq. He quotes on page 190 of his book, and Nawat fi Haq al-Hayat, the following tradition in Sahih Muslim, narrated by Zayd ibn Arqam that on his return journey from the last Hajj, the Holy Prophet halted at Ghadir Qum, between Mecca and Medina, and delivered a sermon in which after the praise and glorification of the Almighty, and after giving general counsel and exhortations he said, O people, I am a human being. Very soon I may be summoned by the Lord and I will have to hearken to the call of my Lord. I leave among you two precious things. The first of them is the book of Allah which possesses light and guidance. Hold the book of Allah firmly and pay attention to it. Then he said, the Second thing is my al-Bayt. You should remember Allah's command in regard to my al-Bayt. And, he said again, remember Allah's command in regard to my al-Bayt. And he said again, remember Allah's command in regard to my al-Bayt. 11. This tradition is quoted in Sahih Tirmidhi as follows. The Holy Prophet said, I am leaving two such things among you that, if you hold them on, you will not be misled after me. One is as important as the other. They are the Book of Allah, which is a rope stretching from the sky to the earth, and my al-Bayt. These two things will not be separated from each other until they meet me at the pool of Kauthar. B. Careful as to how you behave towards them after me. 12. Perhaps the emphatic recommendation made by the Prophet in this tradition about al-Bayt was an allusion to the events that they had to face after his departure, which stigmatized the Muslims and harmed Islam. Indeed, Muslims have acquired their beliefs, religion and morals from correct sources, viz., the Book of Allah and traditions of the Prophet, and other reliable Islamic books, and they hate books written by the Orientalists like Lamans, 13 Goldzahir, Fazmar and Brockelman etc. because they are Christian missionaries and infidels. We have no apprehension that the Shia faith will become extinct and our connection with al-Bayt will be lost owing to the machinations of people like Hopnavi, and the German and American Orientalists. Because others also had fought against the Shia faith for years. But the result was only the strengthening and propagation of the Shia faith. The greatness and expansion of the Shia faith has increased by the grace of Allah day after day, like the Holy Quran, which is the original source of this faith. Because it is Allah and not us that is spreading His light in a perfect manner. As against this greatness of Shia faith, the story of Bani Umayyah ends in loss and disgrace because they fought against the Holy Quran and the Prophet. Allah the Mighty and the High has very correctly said, the foam disappears but what is profitable to man remain in the earth. 13. 17. Hopnavi rejects Allah's words. Hopnavi has mentioned two basic conditions for the authenticity of history and the action thereon. First is that the writer should be unbiased. Second, he should not be a Shia and a follower of al-Bayt of the Prophet, because love for them amounts to heresy. It is possible, you may say that Allah has addressed the Prophet. O Muhammad, say, I do not ask you for any reward for my preaching to you except the love of my kindred. 42. 23. Hence, love for al-Bayt becomes obligatory. In reply to this, I say that love and devotion to al-Bayt has been ordered by Allah, but this verse was revealed for the whole of Quraysh, and the person nearest to the Holy Prophet from amongst Quraysh was Abu Sufyan. What Hopnavi means is that Abu Sufyan was nearer to the Holy Prophet of Islam than Imam Ali, Fatima, Hassan and Husayn. A. Is it really impossible for Hopnavi to control his pen and tongue? Is he not motivated by monetary considerations? Does he not intend to appease the colonial masters? Of course, the colonial boss orders and Hopnavi writes. He lies, behaves like a criminal and publishes whatever he wants. Who is the liar? The respected readers will certainly laugh over this logic. However, when it is Hopnavi's logic, what can be done? Just see what Hopnavi says. He writes on page 9 and page 16 of his book. Shias are liars and whoever is inclined to them is also a liar. Rather, every Sunni whose words conform to those of the Shi, as is a liar and unreliable. According to this remark, Masudi was a heretic and a deceitful person because the Shias consider him